Welcome back to the channel, friends. This is Cat Canada. Thanks for being here with me. This is a follow-up video to the video I did with One BC leader Dallas Brody about One BC's recently released documentary called Making a Killing, which I highly suggest you watch. And what I didn't get to do with Dallas during our conversation was show more highlights of the documentary. And that's what I want to do in this video because there's so many moments that people just absolutely need to watch. And I really wanted to point them out. Let's start with the part of the documentary where the ground penetrating radar specialist Sarah Bollier injects the idea of mass graves and buried children, but at the same time also stating that ground penetrating radar does not actually confirm that it's remains and that you would have to excavate in order to know for sure. Here's that clip.
I am Dr. Sarah Bollier. I'm a faculty associate at the University of the Fraser Valley.
Anthropologist Sarah Bollier took to the stage to present the evidence, which consisted of three elements: ground-penetrating radar, the retrieval of a human tooth and rib bone, and the stories of Indigenous elders.
The juvenile tooth was excavated, I think, in the late 90s or early 2000s. The juvenile rib surfaced in the same area in the early 2000s and was brought into the museum by a tourist, identified as a juvenile rib bone, and then documented subsequently from there.
It turned out the tooth was not human, and no one seems to know where the rib bone is. But that was what the kind of bait was for people, because you're thinking there is some kind of material evidence that shows that there are remains, but it turned out that that was not the case.
I was honored to be invited by the Tk'emlúp Secwépemc to conduct the survey of ground-penetrating radar, also known as GPR.
Ground-penetrating radar, GPR, cannot identify anything but an anomaly, meaning you'd have to dig it up to see.
The suspected graves were found using ground-penetrating radar. While effective at detecting anomalies in soil, it can't see or confirm the presence of human remains.
You can't tell even if there's remains, so how do you know that there's children as young as 3 years old? And that's because Sarah Bollier evidently implanted this in people's heads.
It fits with the knowledge keepers' descriptions of children having to dig graves. It also fits with when you have a juvenile burial, because they are smaller in length, they typically are not dug as deeply.
The GPR specialist, she tried to say the graves are shallow because they were children digging them. They couldn't dig a 6-foot grave. In fact, underlying all that area is 2,000 feet of septic trenches.
In the end, the report revealed that there were not 215 children, but rather 200 anomalies. There were not graves, but rather targets of interest, and that you could not confirm either of those facts without an actual excavation.
With ground-penetrating radar, we could never say definitively that they are human remains until one excavates. We could never say definitively that they are human remains until one excavates, until one excavates, until one excavates.
So, despite that GPR specialist's admission that GPR cannot confirm remains, in that very same press conference, First Nations chiefs said that it's indisputable that crimes were committed. And of course, they demanded immediate and ongoing funding to identify and protect the remains of the children.
With ground-penetrating radar, we could never say definitively that they are human remains until one excavates.
Despite this admission, during that very press conference, Chief Casimir and others maintained that the bodies of dead children had been found.
This ground-penetrating radar technology is revealing undisputable proof that crimes were committed.
We're calling upon both the federal and the provincial governments to provide immediate and ongoing funding to identify and protect the remains of the children found buried at the Kamloops Indian Residential School.
It's undeniable that those are graves. There is no question our knowledge keepers from this community have told us so.
But even this testimony doesn't hold up to what is known about the history of the Kamloops Residential School.
Kamloops Indian Residential School was run largely by Indigenous people. You don't think they would have noticed that some of their people went missing?
It's a large school, lots of staff, near a city, near a band. The kids go home for the summer. Nothing mysterious is going to happen at Kamloops. Native parents are like other parents. They'd ask, where are my kids?
The thing is, if there's a missing person, what is their name? Who are they related to?
Who are the 215 children?
There's no list of names of all these alleged missing children.
But Kamloops Indian Band, they just keep on making these statements about, the 215. They're pretending that it's been found that there's 215 children. It's highly improbable because not one parent has said that their child never came home from the Kamloops Indian Residential School.
So no actual evidence has been presented. There's only been claims based on GPR findings of anomalies. Did you know that in Manitoba, on the Pine Creek Reserve, there was also anomalies detecting using ground penetrating radar? You know what was found when they actually did some digging to figure out what it was?
There has been digging at the Pine Creek Reservation in Manitoba.
Taking that step of actually deciding to dig, of trying to confirm what those anomalies are, led down a tough road.
We began with community engagements after the 215 announced in Kamloops.
The elders had a knowing that in the basement of the church that there were graves there. So they did ceremony, they did a dig.
The next morning, the community gathered for a ceremony to learn what they had found.
0 of those excavations reveal anything looking like human remains.
In this, you can see there are 2 giant rocks. So this is the floor of the reflection. It's completely excavated.
And there's just rocks and junk, old rubble. So no graves.
Do you think the band should commit to doing this excavation?
I doubt that they want to dig it up. They want to say it's sacred ground. And this is what people say.
We know children died there. We know children were abused there. Why do we have to go up and dig graves to prove it?
They don't owe you their children's bodies. Yes, they do. If you're going to accuse my country and my ancestors of genocide, you better dig that ground up.
And yeah, if you're going to accuse the entire country of being a genocidal state, you better prove it. So GPR used in Manitoba, it was dug up in Manitoba, nothing found in Manitoba. But the people in Kamloops want to say that there's 100% children buried there. Based on what?
With ground penetrating radar, we can never say definitively that they are human remains until one excavates.
Canadians are tired of being clubbed over the head with the guilt and shame. The announcement was that they were going to dig.
And despite announcing that the band was ready to excavate the site in July 2021, they still had not begun the work.
Back to Kamloops. Instead of having our Prime Minister say we are guilty of genocide, the world thinking that we killed Native children from coast to coast to coast, what about getting the evidence?
The fact they haven't done that tells you the answer to the question. The chance there's bodies at Kamloops is somewhere around 0. It would take 4 hours to excavate a grave. That's how long it would take to know if you had a body somewhere.
Initially, I was willing to look at it as perhaps a simple mistake, but this goes way beyond a mistake. To have to admit that you've been complicit in that will tend to discredit the entire movement. People are going to have other questions. How could you engage in so many falsehoods over such a long period of time?
This false claim is not insignificant. It is rewriting Canada's past and steering its future. Even now, hundreds of millions in taxpayer funds are still being allocated to bands across the country on the basis of the Kamloops false allegation.
There have been all kinds of political gains as a result of this story. So it's been a huge winner for them. They've gotten money, they've gotten political and legal victories, they're working on more of them. They got hundreds of millions of dollars to look for more, well, I should say more bodies, actually to look for any bodies.
Hundreds of millions are being allocated across the country on the basis of false claims of mass graves in Kamloops. This does not sit well with Canadians. And this false narrative of the 215 did so much damage to Canadian students. Just look at how they react when people like Francis Widdowson come to the campus to talk about it. They literally turn into animals. They howl, they get violent. They become absolutely unhinged when their worldview is being shattered in their faces. This is a clip of an upcoming documentary featuring Francis Widdowson that shows how these students reacted to some basic facts and to some questions.
Back off as well, all of you over there. Fucking Nazis are I can't even believe you
what are your words for the public watching?
This is what we've come to at academic institutions these days. You are not allowed to explore ideas on campus, and if you do, you will be arrested.
holding it. And then they came up and they punched someone. You weren't fucking here.
What are you doing? Fucking A.
You need to stop coming forward. No, it's not ideal. You're working with me and I really appreciate it.
Go back on campus!
If you don't have a society that requires evidence for claims, if you don't have people that are willing to stand up for truth, then what happens when the liars and the exploiters and the profiteers come for you?
Thanks for watching this video. Show the channel some support by subscribing, smashing that like button, leaving a comment, etc. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, and don't forget to also follow me on X. And if you want to watch the full documentary by 1BC, you can go to makingakilling.ca. It's really worth a watch. Thanks again for watching.